Hello guys, and this is the Russian Genius, and let's talk about the second deal, alright? So for this I'm going to use the Ace of Spades, and this is going to be the strike second deal, and here's how it looks like, just like that. So I am going to give you a few tips on the strike second deal. When you start practicing the second deal, then make sure that the gap is a little bit big. So as you can see right now I'm doing the second deal, and as you can see the gap is actually quite big. If you want, you can even push the card a little bit more downwards, and then you can change the grip, and then you can do it once again with a bigger gap. Once you have practiced dealing the cards with a big gap, then you can always minimize the gap. So I'm going to place the card a little bit more forward, and then I'm able to do it once again. And with more practice and after a few weeks, then I'm able to do the second deal by using even a smaller gap, as you can see. And once you have practiced really much, then you can almost do it without moving the card. So as you can see, just like this, now the gap is quite small and I'm still able to take the second card from the top. And if I do it face down, then it looks something like this, as you can see, just like that. Now here is another tip. When practicing this move, then it's of course a good idea to practice dealing the cards, you know, in one pile. That's okay. It's okay to practice dealing the cards into one pile, but once you have learned the technique good enough, then you can start dealing cards to your imaginary spectators, as you can see, just like that. Now what this does when you're dealing the cards to spectators, as you can see, this makes it more difficult to second deal the card, and this also makes it more difficult to focus on two things at once, because you're focusing on dealing the second card, and then you're focusing on dealing the second card to the player, to the imaginary player, of course, or if you're demonstrating this, or if you're doing this in a real game, which of course you shouldn't, alright? But if you want to, then do it, but you know, it's not my fault if something happens. That's a disclaimer, so the channel doesn't get sued if it actually happens that someone cheats at poker and then says that they learned it from me, which is quite awesome at the same time. Anyways, that's the second tip, which is to deal the cards to your imaginary or to your real spectators. And when you do it, it gets more difficult, and also you're focusing at two things at once. And also it's good to practice it because you are never dealing seconds into one pile. Now the last tip, it is to learn to deal like this, as you can see. Now when I'm dealing, I am actually throwing the cards, and you do not need to do it fast, alright? A lot of people think that you need to do the second deal fast. Just do it nice and smooth, just like this. When learning to deal like this, then a good tip is to deal to 3 spectators. So, you know, like that, as you can see. So to deal from the left side to the right side, or if you want, from the right side to the left side. I am actually looking at the camera right now, so I'm not looking at the hands. So as you can see, I do mistakes. Yes, I do mistakes. Also, the last tip which I wanted to mention, it is that try to do the second deal without looking at your hands. So for instance, right now I am going to look on the microphone, which is right in front of my nose, and since I'm looking at the microphone, I am still able to deal seconds. just like this, as you can see. So that's something you also should remember. So what we learned that start with a big gap and then slowly in few days and hours try to make the gap smaller. And the other tip was deal the cards to your imaginary or to your real spectators instead of dealing the cards in one pile. And the last tip was try to do it without looking at your hands. So yes, anyways, thank you guys really much for watching. I really hope you enjoy this. Make sure to like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you guys in my next video. You can either do it with 4 cuts, so as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I meant 5. You can either do it with 5 cuts or you can do it with 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, just like that.